Hi y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to another Writers Wednesday. As promised in last week's video, I semi-skipped one of the questions in my new authortube tag because I just really didn't have enough time and there was too much information to give for that one question. So I am explaining it here. The short answer is that I started writing when I was 9. And without further ado, let's get into the long answer. Off of the original short answer, I did start writing when I was 9. And what I mean by I started writing when I was 9 is that was the time where I kind of started creating characters in my head and settings. Since I was so young, I wasn't really able to be in the right mindset to put together a proper story. I didn't really know who the antagonist was. I didn't really have too much of a real problem that I even formed. I only knew the two main characters and they were supposed to be love interests and it was supposed to take place in medieval times. And I kind of knew major events that would happen in each book. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. I tried to write a series right off the bat. I did, however, draw horrible cover photos for these made-up stories that I never wrote. The next story I continued on was also another picture book, but this time I did write a little bit of it. It was about a girl and her dog, and they go on a field trip, and eventually, of course, the dog has to save the girl. And I'm pretty sure the dog saved the entire class, too. I gave it to my family as a Christmas gift, thinking that it was the best thing I had ever written. Bless my dad's heart, I saw him reading it even though it was just not great. The next book that I wrote was a teenage adventure novel that was a knockoff of Home on the Range. If you have seen Home on the Range, it is amazing. I feel like it is one of the most underrated movies of all time. But instead of them being animals, they are humans and they're all kind of friends at one of the characters' grandma's house. And their pets end up saving them with the pack of coyotes instead of the coyotes eating the animals and the kids. I wrote the entire thing by hand on lined pieces of paper. I'm pretty sure that I threw it away at some point when I was in high school, going through all of my old writing things. But I don't know if I saved it or not. I should see if I could find it. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm probably around 12 or 13, and I realized that there needs to be organization in all of the story ideas that I have. So I had this binder where I had a little separator folder for each story that I came up with. I think that I got up to like 38 different plot lines. I would start with one chapter, feel really, really good about it, know exactly where the story was going, but I would always get stumped in the middle. So the binder was giant, but these stories were so underdeveloped. I still remember a couple of the plot lines of the stories that I have, and I'm kind of keeping them in here to use them since I am a little bit of a better writer than when I was 13. Shocker, none of them were ever finished. Occasionally, when I was in middle school, I would write books about my friends. I'd give them really cool character names and we'd have powers. Sometimes I would try and write books based on the things that my friends gave as plot lines, but to be honest, they weren't very good. So I would humor them for a little bit, and then yeah, I just never continued on that story, and I didn't feel heartbroken about it. Then I threw out everything completely out the window of what I have learned when I joined Wattpad. Oh, Wattpad. All of the many mistakes that I have made publicly on the internet on Wattpad. I wrote a couple of books on there. I'm pretty sure that most of them were teen dramas. I think I wrote one fan fiction thing about One Direction for one of my friends that really liked One Direction at the time. For one book in particular, I loosely based it on people that I know, and what I mean by loosely is completely. I really need to go back and make that private. I actually still have the login, and I'm afraid to look at it. But if you want to see more garbage writing on a Wattpad, then subscribe down below. If I hit 90, I'll do it. There were a couple of things on my Wattpad ones that actually did have pretty good plot lines, but they just weren't executed very well. I do want to hang on to some of the plot lines if they can become better stories. But alas, none of them were ever finished. Now, fast forward to my freshman year of college. I skipped over junior and senior year of high school because, well, I just didn't have a lot of time to write or even read for that matter. I was just focused on other aspects of life, and I feel like once I got to my freshman year of college, those things had kind of gone their course and I could kind of think a little bit more about getting creative again. Freshman year of college is when I had my light bulb moment. My inspiration was caused by a couple of different things. The first aspect had to actually do with the apartment that I was living in. For a couple of months, I was expecting a very important letter, so every day I would go and visit the front office to see if my letter had arrived. The only way that I could get to the front office from where I lived was going across a parking garage that connected the women's housing and the men's housing. Men's housing is where the front office and the mailboxes were, so I would have to cut across. I lived on the 3rd floor, and not very many people had cars on the 3rd floor, or if they did have cars and lived on the 3rd floor, they put their cars a little bit lower to the ground. While I was walking across the parking garage, it was basically empty, and I just kept on imagining what it would be like to be in a post-apocalyptic world where there was nobody around. I feel like there's a really interesting feeling that you get where you know that you are in a place that not very many people venture to. Even if it is in more of a public place, or even if it's completely abandoned, it still has that similar, like, almost nostalgic feeling, and I wanted to hang on to that and put that into a plot. With that feeling in mind, the second element to my trilogy that I am working on right now actually had to do with one of my public speaking classes. The first day of class, we had to make a 3-minute presentation on basically whatever we wanted, or I think that we got prompts on little papers. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but all I remember is that we had to make 3-minute presentations. And there was a girl who did a presentation on how when she was younger, she wanted to be Spider-Man, but she was told that she couldn't because Spider-Man is a boy. It was a really well done speech, and I honestly couldn't stop imagining her as this boss-ass character inside of a post-apocalyptic world. Do you ever just look at someone and they just kind of have an iconic look to them? Well, she had a super iconic look, and I could not get over it. And I knew the minute she started talking that I needed to base a character on her. To this day, I still don't remember her name. I never got to know her as well as I would have liked, but because of that, it was almost a good thing, because that meant I could make her personality entirely from scratch. So I could still give her the iconic look, but also have a little bit of creativity to make the main character the person that I wanted. And I have been working on that story for the past 4-5-ish years now, and I have to say, I feel like with all of the experience that I have had of writing completely garbage books, that hopefully I am at the point where I will be able to write something that people will want to read. So there is the completed answer to that question. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Sayonara, you guys, and I will see you